host of NewsNation's On Balance, Leland Vittert. Leland, as we know, we're now in the final hours of the extended ceasefire. We know international mediators, per Robert's point there, they're currently working to extend this truce. Do you think we're likely to see another extension at some point today?
If I could foretold the future in the Middle East, I would be a very different person with a very different job than I am now. So who knows? I used to say as a foreign correspondent in the Middle East, it was lifelong job security because there would always be conflict. The thing to look at here is continuing a ceasefire in the best interest of anybody but Hamas? And I'm not quite sure how anybody other than Hamas wins, given the generic current framework of a ceasefire that we're working under. They're able to rearm and reconstitute. They're able to move hostages around. They still have all but one of their Americans. They still have eight or nine American hostages. They haven't given any of those up, despite having promised to do so. Iran is continuing to able to launch attacks on American forces throughout the region with impunity. Who wins other than Iran in a ceasefire?
Yeah. We also know that the ceasefire negotiations taking place in Qatar, kind of, elaborate a little bit more on who exactly is taking part in these negotiations, and also with each of these new ceasefire deals that we're reaching, every 24, 48 hours. Does each side have to up the ante every couple days to strike a new deal?
It's a good question. Bill Burns, the CIA director, is running it for the United States. The Mossad chief, that's Israeli intelligence, is running it for them, all in Qatar. That's where the Hamas has its Politburo, if you will, and within striking distance of Tehran, where Hamas gets its money and direction from. The original ceasefire deal said that for every 10 additional hostages, there would be one additional day of calm. And I think it's important to listen to the Israelis really carefully here. They're saying that it is a day of calm. So long as hostages are coming out, they're willing to hold their offensive. They said once that stops, once it drops below 10 per day, then it's game on. They're going to resume their offensive, and they said they're also going to go after southern Gaza, which is where a number of the Hamas fighters have gone to. The bigger question here is not so much upping the ante in terms of asking for or delivering more. I think it's lowering the ante. I think it's what happens when Hamas says, well, we're going to give you 5 today. Yeah. And counting on the international pressure on Israel to hold their fire, even though Hamas isn't living up to its deal.
Yeah, and maybe seeing if they would still exchange 50 for the 5. Because, we listened in on that Israeli government press conference earlier. They said that they have a new list of 50 violent Palestinian prisoners that they're now willing to release if Hamas continues to play ball here. And Leland, we were on air yesterday when we saw some of that fighting break out between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Multiple explosions happening in the matter of really about an hour that Robert Sherman was reporting on. Realistically, can this peace hold long enough to exchange all of the hostages when we still have 161 left?
Sure, anything's possible. 16 days, for sure. Now, there's different factions inside Gaza. There's other terrorist groups than just Hamas. So there's some competing interests here. But in every war that I've covered, during ceasefires, there were little skirmishes, or there was somebody who freelanced a little bit and did something. I'm not sure that I would really look to that as the bigger issue. I think that the fact that Hamas has now turned the tables and has the world focused on the idea that hostages are coming out above all, not that Hamas is able to rearm, not that Hamas is able to reconstitute, not that they are conceivably and possibly going to stay in power, not that the Iranians are continuing to act with impunity, not with the fact that Israel is having to pay this enormous price of releasing known terrorists back into the West Bank to carry out more terrorist attacks. The world is singularly focused on, well, Israel must cease fire so we can get more hostages out. That's interesting. And I think also the U.S. administration, the Biden administration, has the internal pressures from Democrats about protecting Gaza, number one. And number two, there's going to start to be a lot of internal pressure on President Biden, I think, about why Americans haven't come out. They were supposed to. They haven't. John Kirby said at one point, we have to hope Hamas does the right thing. Another administration official last night was talking about, well, Hamas has trouble moving hostages around the Gaza Strip. We just sort of have to follow their lead for who comes out when. Excuse me, we're the United States of America. We're the ones putting pressure on Israel to get to have this deal, and no Americans are coming out?
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.